Live from the Vodafone Gigabit Broadband Studio in Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories. A County Cork firm has confirmed a truck in which 15 people were found in the UK was one of theirs. As Sinn Féin councillor West Waterford says not enough is being done to tackle serious drug dealing in the area. And Dungarvan Chamber of Commerce is appealing to the local authority not to increase commercial rates. And in sport, Ireland's Sam Bennett has left the Bora Hansgrohe team. Sean Delaney and Sons in Glanmire in County Cork has confirmed that a truck in which 15 people were found in the UK was one of theirs. An Irishman in his 50s was arrested in connection with the discovery. Cork's 96 FM's reporter Fiona Corcoran has more on the story.
It's believed the driver alerted police when he heard banging in the back of the truck. Wiltshire police discovered 15 people inside. All were over the age of 16 and none are believed to have been in a serious condition. The road near Chippenham was closed off and a full investigation was launched. A man in his 50s was arrested on suspicion of assisting with illegal entry. The truck belongs to Sean Delaney and Sons in Glanmire, and the company has confirmed this morning that they have been made aware of the incident and will assist in any investigation that's being carried out.
A councillor in West Waterford says not enough is being done to tackle serious drug dealing in the area. Recent figures show drug offences in the Dungarvan Garda division are up 142% since 2015. Sinn Féin councillor Conor McGuinness says scarce Garda resources are being used to convict people in possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use.
We've seen very, very recently a number of prosecutions for people with as little as €15 worth of cannabis in their possession for personal use. Frankly, that doesn't strike me as a very wise or effective or efficient use of resources when we have heroin and cocaine and reports of crack cocaine being sold in our areas. These are drugs that are extremely harmful, that are extremely addictive, and the whole economy behind them is to get vulnerable people, to find them, to seek them out, to get them addicted to this drug, and then to force them into a situation where they're providing money hand over fist on a constant basis to these criminal enterprises.
Dungarvan Chamber of Commerce is appealing to the local authority not to increase commercial rates. They say there are two threats to commercial rates: the annual budget and the $3.3 million deficit, which is being discussed at a special meeting in Dungarvan today. They say there are rumours that there will be a 10 to 15% rates increase on commercial rates to fill some of the hole in the finances that Irish water rates reduction has caused. Chamber President David Walsh says letters have been sent to councillors and the executive outlining the disaster and the repercussions that will occur with an increase to commercial rates. He says any additional costs would be unfair to entrepreneurs and employers who are carrying an already sizable rates burden. The Taoiseachtas defended the Garda investigation into the campaign of intimidation against staff at Quinn Industrial Holdings. Directors at the firm have expressed their concern that attacks on property and other incidents in recent years have not been taken seriously. Since the abduction and vicious attack on Kevin Lunny, there has been an increased presence of Gardaí and the PSNI in the border region. Taoiseach Simon Coveney says files have been sent to the DPP in relation to the ongoing investigation.
The Gardaí have clarified a number of arrests have been made in relation to the incidents relating to employees and property of QIH, and files have been forwarded to the DPP.
Time is up, Taoiseach.
No charges have been directed at this time in relation to those investigations, but they are still ongoing.
The estate manager of Waterford's Mount Congreve says the additional funding to restore and develop the gardens is already in place. €3.7 million in funding was announced yesterday. However, the project is expected to cost €4.9 million. Ray Sinnott explains where the remainder will come from.
So there's a grant that's already in place from the OPW for the upkeep of the gardens, because it really is of not only national significance but international significance, this garden, and the OPW are aware of that. So they have provided funding for a number of years, and then there will be match funding put in place by Fáilte Ireland. But we're not going to be taking money from other departments that could be better spent elsewhere.
He says the idea is to create jobs locally.
This is money purely that was set aside for rural regeneration so that you can provide more employment in the places like Kilmeaden, Butlerstown and Portlaw and reinvigorate the local economy. That's the idea behind this whole thing. So the funding that is needed is already in place and we're going to use that. We're not going to be taking funding from any other bodies that should have been, for example, gone into the hospital or somewhere like that. This is a different stream of funding entirely.
The first Irish rape survivor to waive her anonymity says the government is continuing to sideline victims. Lavinia Kerwick from Kilkenny was speaking at a conference on sexual violence to mark 40 years of the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre. Shane Beattie reports.
Lavinia Kerwick made history when she went public after her attacker was given a suspended sentence in 1991. She says victims still feel sidelined.
Now is the time. We're just asking for support. Don't keep sidelining us. The money that you give could possibly save somebody's life. And I'd hate for anyone to have the life that I had.
The Dublin Rape Crisis Centre is hosting a conference to mark its 40 years. Some of its clients are being placed on 10-month waiting lists. TD Ruth Coppinger has compared the funding of €25 million for services for victims with the €17 million the greyhound industry receives. Anne-Marie Gill is chairperson of the Rape Crisis Centre.
That statement speaks for itself, that the dogs are treated better than the victims of sexual violence. It's a disgrace.
40 years ago, the centre had around 70 calls. Last year, it handled 14,000 contacts. Former Taoiseach Eamon Gilmore is the EU's Special Representative for Human Rights. He says politicians have a role in rape culture.
When you hear prominent political leaders speaking in very vulgar terms and then dismissing it as some kind of locker room banter, that feeds the culture.
Shane Beattie at the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre Conference, Dublin.
RTE says the 200 jobs it's planning to cut next year will be done so on a voluntary basis. The company has announced major cost-cutting measures, which also include reducing top presenters' pay by 15%. Kim Buckley reports.
RTE says it needs to reduce projected costs by €60 million over the next 3 years. As part of plans to do so, it's announced it will cut 200 jobs next year. However, RTE Director General Dee Forbes says the staff cuts will be a voluntary scheme. Top contracted on-air presenters will also have their salaries reduced by 15%. Business Minister Heather Humphrey says it's not viable to have some presenters on a higher salary than the Taoiseach.
Really, as far as I'm concerned, it's a matter for RTE. If they think that model is viable, I don't personally think it's viable. I think that's something they're going to have to look at.
The RTE Guide will be sold while RTE's Limerick studio will close next year. Lyric FM will be moved to Cork and Dublin, and digital stations such as 2XM, RTE Pulse and RTE Gold will close. These people in Dublin have mixed opinions on whether the government should have done more to help.
I think RTE needs to change. It's very traditional in its approach and it does need a complete new revamp.
It's probably the government's fault then, yeah. It's always the government's fault, isn't it? We don't watch telly anymore, like, you know what I mean? I'd be on Netflix or...
In addition, the teletext service RTE Airtel will cease operation, while the RTE National Symphony Orchestra will transfer to the National Concert Hall.
Tomorrow is the closing date for entries for the 2019 Waterford Business Awards. The event, now in its 6th year, recognises excellence in business across the city and county. They're organised by Waterford Chamber in collaboration with Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber. The Waterford Chamber President Jonathan Earl says the awards promise diversity among its businesses.
With last year's amalgamation with Tramore Chamber, and last year we teamed up with Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber, now it's a whole county event, you know what I mean? So it's great to get that diversity because it breeds freshness as well, and freshness is a key aspect of the awards night. You get businesses and you get individuals that don't necessarily always come to chamber events, and every year it's a new batch of finalists, so it's great fun.
11 projects from 7 schools in Waterford have made it through to the finals of the BT Young Scientist competition. The annual competition, which began in 1965, takes place in January. Artscoil Namara, St Angela's, Artscoil Nadesha, Blackwater Community, Gaels Colosht, Fort Lariga, St Paul's and Abbey Community are all represented. One local project looks at whether sweet flavoured e-liquids are a factor in the vaping epidemic amongst teenagers. Another says there's a cure in the ground for everything. In total, 1,800 projects were submitted, with 550 making it through to the finals.
WLR Sport.
Very good afternoon, I'm Gavin. Whelan. First to cycling in Ireland, Sam Bennett has left the Bora Hansborough team. The 29-year-old won 2 stages at this year's Vuelta a España and had asked for his release from the German outfit. The team opted not to select the sprinter for the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France, and he's now in line to join the Quick Step for the 2020 season. Next to news of Gaelic Games, Rathcormac are getting ready for their first Munster Championship match in some 20 years as they travel to West Clare for a quarter-final showdown with St Joseph's Milltown Malbay on Sunday afternoon. The game will throw in at 1:30 and we'll have updates here on WLR across the afternoon. Manager Ger Power says that the county final celebrations after last month's win over Ballynacorty will live long in the memory.
Oh, it was fantastic, it was great. Jim Cowan, the local farmer there, his father, Jamie, John and Stephen there who were on the panel. He lined up the tractor and the same trailer that we had back in 95, and Jim drove up, and this time we have the community centre in the village at the moment now, which is a fantastic facility, and it was great that we drove slowly up through the village and we had a big parade behind, and all the children and the older people, we met them all up in the community centre, and we stayed there for about 2 hours, and we had a good time up there together, and people got to meet the players and take pictures with them, and it was great.
Throw-in, as mentioned, for that one is at 1:30 on Sunday afternoon. Ballygunner also gearing up for their Munster semi-final tussle with Patrick's Well on Sunday afternoon. The Gunners emphatically saw off 6 Mile Bridge in the quarter-final last weekend by 121 to 12 points and will be keen to advance to yet another provincial decider and maintain their bid for back-to-back titles. Throw-in for that one is at 1:45. We'll be broadcasting the game live thanks to George Corbett-Skoda with commentators Tomas McCarthy and Owen Murphy. Also a big weekend for St Saviour's, who will represent Waterford in the Munster Intermediate Football Championship on Saturday afternoon. The city side make the trip to the Kingdom to face a highly fancied Temple No in the provincial quarter-final. Brian Power is the only surviving member of the St Saviour's club who played in the Munster Club Championship in 1998. He told WLR Sport that he's looking forward to lining out against the Kerry side.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a long time now since we competed in Munster Championships, so really looking forward to it. Yeah, 1998 I think was the last time we played Munster Club against University Limerick, I think.
And throw-in for that one at the Kingdom venue is at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. Ballysaggart, of course, also back in action on Sunday in the Munster Intermediate Club semi-final. The Waterford champions welcome Sean Tracy's of Tipperary to Frahar Field. Throw-in for that one is at 1:30. Next to news of rugby, former England captain Dylan Hartley has retired from rugby. The hooker sustained a knee injury 11 months ago that has prevented him from playing for his Premiership club Northampton. Scotland have formally reprimanded and told to issue a written apology to the Rugby World Rugby and the Rugby World Cup. It's after they threatened to take legal action if their crucial match against Japan was cancelled due to a typhoon. Connacht have welcomed back Irish internationals Jack Carty and Bundy Aki for their Guinness Pro 14 clash with champions Leinster tomorrow night. Leinster have brought props Cian Healy and Andrew Porter into the front row. Soccer next, Stoke City have asked the Irish FA, for permission to speak to Northern Ireland boss Michael O'Neill. The Championship spot and club are without a manager after sacking Nathan Jones. O'Neill took Northern Ireland from 129th in the world rankings to a highest ever 20th position. Action tonight in the Europa League. 4 British clubs in action. Manchester United host Partizan Belgrade after grinding out a 1-0 win in the reverse fixture 2 weeks ago. Wolves can make it 3 successive wins in the competition. They take on Slovan Bratislava at Molineux. Celtic are in Italy to face Lazio, who they beat last time out, while Rangers host Porto. That one taking place in Glasgow. And today's racing action has just gotten underway. A 7 race card in Thurles. That's the latest on WLR. More at 2.